conscious of your time. I know you guys have gone through a lot, and what we want to do is give you as much information as we can. There's a couple of presentations that are virtual presentations. Commissioner Strain is going to open us up, talking from LDAP. He is virtual, and most of the other presentations are going to be live presentations. I think there's one other virtual one. So everyone make sure that you sign in. We want to keep the mask mandate going while we're in here. There's cold waters in the refrigerator. If anybody needs a water, they can go get it, or just let me know. I'll bring it to them. And these are the addresses and everything for your extension agents, your parishes. And these are the horde agents. There are a lot of other agents in those parishes, but by contacting these agents, you'll be able to get the information or the right place to get the information. And we are going to be recording this presentation. So if you know anyone who couldn't make it but would like to get the information, they can view the presentations on YouTube. All the handouts we have will be electronically, or if you want to have them mailed to you, just let us know. We'll mail them to you. And any of these email addresses, if you send an email to them and ask you for the link and the materials, they'll be able to get them to you. So with that, we ready to go, Anna?
That's a great question.
We got Commissioner Strain on.
Yep. We need to unmute on our side, and I can talk to him directly, and then we need to connect him there.
Oh, I can go further.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Commissioner Strain, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Is this Miss Anna?
Yes. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties.
That's okay. I'm used to it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Let's just use that. Yeah. Yes, we can hear you. The problem is the speakers are not working in our area here, and we are unable to project you. But we've got a little USB speaker. Can we plug that directly in?
It doesn't have the adapter for that.
All right, we're gonna have to do our best. I've got you cranked up as high as it can go.
Okay, well, I will try to speak loudly.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to visit with you a few minutes today. And unfortunately, we have been through this before. And of course, Hurricane Ida and then Hurricane Nicholas right on its tail. And I think the important thing is that, we look at what options are available and how we have to deal with things. There are immediate issues where you are needing assistance. First step is to contact your parish OEP. Everything goes through the parish OEP if there is an emergency that the government or FEMA can help you with, and everything is tasked through that system. So always remember, that's the first stop during an emergency, and that's through your parish OEP, and it goes to GOSEP, and then those tasks go out either to my agency, to Wildlife and Fisheries, to the National Guard, or wherever. So that's always keep that in mind. Secondly, as you're doing everything, keep good records. That is absolutely critical for two reasons. One, if there are programs that are now or in the future that will compensate you or help you or reimburse you, you've got to have good records, either up front or later on, a year from now, when there's audits and they look at those programs. You have to be able to have that data. So what I tell everyone is, use your cell phone, use an iPad, or even a disposable camera. And if you're going to fix fence, measure it out. And you can get a measure wheel where you can run it pretty easily. You can get those at Home Depot anywhere, or a tape measure. If you're going to cut a tree, when you take a photograph of it, when you cut it, lay a yardstick down over the stump and take a picture of that. Keep good records of what has been damaged. And so, you can use a notebook or any other record. But records are critical as you are going through the cleanup process, the repair process. And then next, contact at your earliest convenience your Farm Services Agency and the Office of the NRCS. Work with them. Now, you're probably going to have to do that electronically. A lot of the office you can't go in person, but make those contacts now. And because a number of programs, and that some of them have 30-day windows, they're very short. And some of the programs are the Emergency Forest Restoration Program, but there are other programs, and that's the Emergency Assistance for Livestock, Poultry, and Honeybees. There's the Tree Assistance Program that can be there for nurseries. There are a host of programs there, and most of you probably are well aware of those programs. But again, contact your Farm Services Agency and the NRCS, because one, there are standing programs that are there, but also there are programs that are being developed. And it looks like some of these programs, specifically when you look at how we're going to work with our forestry issues, those will probably be going through the NRCS versus the USDA. But there are going to be a number of programs. Also, if you're going to clean up and rehabilitate your timber, there is also a state program as well called the Forest Productivity Program, the FPP, that will pay you with matching dollars, and that is administered through the Department of Ag and Forestry. So you call my office and talk to forestry, and it's called the Forest Productivity Program, the FPP program. Also, if you have immediate needs in most of the parishes, you have the ag centers are working with the Farm Bureau and the Cattlemen's Associations to get some immediate needs for feed, hay, fence post, whatever we can do to try to help to get things rehabilitated. Next, I would also tell you that send a letter of what your needs are and send a copy to your federal delegation, your United States congressmen, your United States senators, and please copy me on that, because we will be asking for federal dollars. Now, there are federal dollars that are being put towards these storms, but it's currently in the infrastructure bill. It's in that $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill versus a standalone measure. And of course, once those dollars come, then we will see how the federal government says it will be administered. In previous times, it's been administered through my office, but it may be administered through like a recovery home program with an ag sector, or it could go to the USDA, through the FSA, or the NRCS. We're not sure of that. And then I would also tell you that this has been a very unique storm. And after each storm, we do what we call a hot wash: what worked well, what did not, and what we can do better. And what I'm going to say is that at every aspect of what we're doing, we're trying to develop greater strength and resiliency, which means greater capacity fuel tanks, having better, generator systems for what we need for us, the availability of, if you have livestock, water tanks, the availability of water pumps. It took me 4 days, and we had to go to Texas to buy 2-inch water pumps that we could run off gasoline and get water to livestock. So water pump, dewatering pumps. What happens when there is a crisis, those supplies, you can't find them in the state. So what we're asking all of our producers is that when this is all done, think about how can I be a little stronger? How can I, be a little more resilient? Is there anything I can do? And continuously think on that, especially if you're in the livestock industry. But again, we are here to help. I'm here to listen. Most recovery programs are federal in nature, and we work to try to facilitate that and then do anything else we can to help you. So with that, I will open that up to questions and discussions. And hopefully you heard me.
Yep, we heard you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Some questions for you from our end. Does anyone have questions for Commissioner Strait?
OPS.
Huh?
You kept referring to OPS.
Oh, could you tell us what OPS is?
No, that is, yes, Parish Office of Emergency Preparedness. Your parish emergency preparedness. So your parish contact, every parish has an Office of Emergency Preparedness, the OEP. And that is what is then, that information goes to the governor's office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. So if, you know, if when there is an emergency, that's where your parish government kicks in. There's generally an office of, and, you know, the sheriff participates, you know, your parish president, but you generally have an emergency coordinator in every parish. So if, for instance, if a fire department needs emergency fuel, or they don't have power, or the hospital, they go through that system, and that way it's tracked from there all the way to where it's accomplished, and then hopefully there's FEMA reimbursement.
Other questions? Thank you very much, Commissioner Strain. We appreciate your time that you took with us this morning.
Yes.
We've got USDA and NRCS here who are going to speak to their programs.
Good.
For all the users. So we do appreciate
Very
it.
good. And I will close with this. Please be careful. What we're seeing is that we have more injuries and loss of life after the storm than during the storm. So cuts, electrocution, carbon monoxide is a huge problem with generators. You're using a chainsaw. If you get tired, set it down, wear gloves, wear boots, wear chaps, wear eye protection, hard hat, all those things. And again, safety first, because what happens when we get tired and, you know, and you're aggravated, you've been through this, it doesn't take but a second to get hurt. So please be very careful.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, next up, we're going to have Jamie. Sorry about that. We're making it work. Next up, we have Jamie Rodriguez presenting, and we'll have video for you shortly.
Email her, call me, I have a question, call me.
Because right now, this is what
How are you?
makes sense though. You can see
Then how are you holding it?
we are passing out a series of handouts, and I will make those available to all of you participating virtually as soon as the meeting concludes.
Oh, you're up.
USDA Farm Service Agency in our area. I have two offices. One is in Thibodeau. The other one is in Edgewater, right? I share an office with the Ag Center in Edgewater, in St. John Parish. Right now, office is not operable. It did sustain a decent amount of damage as a whole in the roof. So we are operating out of our Thibodeau office. We have minor damages there. It took us about 2 weeks to get power back to our office. And I just want to make note of this because I know some people have been trying to call us. That is the correct phone number up there. The one on the handout is the main line, but it's not working. We sustained some minor damages because of the hurricane there, and our IT department is working with the local phone provider to try and get the main line working. But the line that we do have that's working is the 6293 line. I put my email address on there, also because we're accessible by email. I've recently lost some staff members, so I'm down to myself and one program technician, Ms. Lisa Zarang, and we're trying to serve everybody for these disaster programs the best that we can with the resources that we have at hand. I'm going to try to work out with some parish officials, maybe to have a day to come down in the local area if we could set up with power and Wi-Fi, and that way you can come to us mobile and sign up, and that way it'll save you a trip, because I know that many, including ourselves at home, are not without access to email and Wi-Fi, and in some places in North Plaquemines, I know they're still without power. So let's just talk briefly about our disaster assistance programs. The main ones that we have, post-hurricane, we have the Emergency Conservation Program. And it goes over all of them on this handout. Tells you a little bit about the Emergency Conservation Program will provide assistance to rehabilitate cropland or pasture land back into production if it has sustained a loss from a natural disaster that's so severe you need government assistance. We help remove debris of trees, repair and restore fences. We also have some grading and reshaping, releveling practices, as well as some cleaning of drains and drainage structures, practices that we are working on enacting this program. Our state committee and state level is going to meet on Monday, and they're going to send our request up to the national office, so that is coming. Right now, we are taking names and numbers. I'm scheduling site assessments as early as next week. And as Commissioner Strain said, we do have some emergency type situations. It's an emergency if you have to contain your cattle. It's an emergency if you have to remove some sharp debris off of your pasture to protect your cattle. It's an emergency. I know our sugarcane farmers are having to move the debris out of their fields in order to plant their crop and start with their harvest. This covers aquaculture as well if it's in a contained environment, such as catfish, crawfish ponds. I'm working on a question about oysters. All of our programs, as far as oysters go, are only covering the container operations. We don't have anything yet for the traditional oyster practices, so they have to be in a controlled container environment. I'm going to reiterate what Dr. Strain said. Document, keep records. Anything you remove, anything you repair, I've got some offers of help from some neighboring parishes and some of our state office and foreign loan staff to come out. We do have to do a site assessment, but if you have to move something because of an emergency situation, make sure you measure it, document it, take pictures. This is a cost share program. We can make a one payment up front, but it's not complete, whole, immediate assistance. It covers up to 75% of your expenses to complete these practices. So make sure that when you're doing this, what equipment do you use? On down to a chainsaw, fencing pliers, hammer and nail. You rent equipment, keep your receipts. You buy fuel to run your equipment, keep your receipts. If you pay labor, or if your family comes and helps you, keep track of their time, and they'll have to sign a statement saying, yes, I helped farmer so-and-so clean debris off of this property for 6 hours on this date, and then our committee will set a rate for labor to be able to attribute those costs. You have supplies on hand that you use, make sure you keep track of that as well. We also have gate replacements for fence repairs. Does anybody have any questions about the emergency conservation program before we move on to some of our other assistances? Also, if, I know we probably have a lot of specialty crop producers. Without it, there being cropland present, or pasture land, it's gonna be hard for us to fit you into this, emergency conservation program, aside from the orchards and the vegetable gardens. However, if you have not yet applied for our coronavirus food assistance program and you're just looking for immediate assistance, if you were a commercial producer, you had sales, and you had sales in 2020 and 2019, even if you were new in 2020, that's okay, you can still apply. That would be some more immediate assistance. The clock is ticking on that one though, because our deadline is going to be October the 12th to sign up for the coronavirus food assistance program. And all it is you're certifying to what your sales dollar figure was for that year for aquaculture and specialty crops. Another program that we have is the ELOP program that provides emergency assistance to honeybee producers, farm-raised fish. There's an aquaculture component. Our state is working on some of the questions that we have from that from crawfish producers, but we are taking sign-ups for that as well. What ELOP covers losses due to natural disasters as for those producers. Honeybees, if you lose your hives, if you lose your colony, we have assistance for you. It's a short window. For honeybees, it's supposed to be a 15-day turnaround. Don't still call us, still sign up for it. I'm sure because of our situation with the damage to the office and the phone lines, we will be able to grant a waiver and some grace on that. But you need to notify us now so we can take your notice of loss. For cattle, lost days of grazing, lost spells of hay, any additional feed expenses, or a purchase fee that you may have lost as a result of the storm. One thing it does not cover is hay that you didn't get to make as a result of the storm. So then there's also our livestock indemnity program for any livestock that was lost. Or you can even cover chickens through the livestock indemnity program if they were lost as a result of the hurricane. You have to report this within 30 days of when your loss was apparent. Not necessarily 30 days when the storm happened. If you evacuated and you didn't know for another week that your cattle were dead, or if your cattle were rescued and you had to go off site somewhere to get a head count, you know, those. Then we have the
Can those
nursery trees, orchard trees,
that means, but I would say that
bushes that you lost due to the storm. This is another one of those cost share programs. So you have to have sustained at least a 20% loss, most crops. There's 15% off the top plus whatever the state committee set for normal mortality. I know for citrus and pecan trees, it is 5%. And nursery trees, it's 5.5%. So you have a year to replant those trees. And again, you save your cost of that, and TAP will pay up to 65% of your expenses to replant and up to 50% of your expenses to rehabilitate those trees to get them back into production. We send a loss adjuster out, he comes and he verifies what your losses are, and then we approve your application. Your application is approved, and you have a year to replant. And again, we do have, under extenuating circumstances, we do have the ability to request extensions for the TAP program. NAP program, this is for all non-insurable crops. If you do not have traditional crop insurance, you can purchase a NAP policy. You have to have purchased a NAP policy ahead of time. We have NAP for just about any crop that is not insured with crop insurance, as well as aquaculture on a value loss basis, as long as it's in a controlled environment. And then we also have NAP for grazing. The deadline is coming really quick for 2022 NAP for grazing. Strawberries and aquaculture, that's a big deadline, September the 30th. Those are $325 per crop. However, if you are a beginning farmer of 10 years or less, socially disadvantaged, which includes minority and females, a veteran within the last 10 years, we can waive our limited resource. We can waive those administrative fees for NAP. We have some buy-up coverage offerings as well. NAP coverage, you have to have for traditional NAP policy greater than 50% of the loss, and we cover 55% of the market year average price. Grazing is a little different, where you're reporting production on grazing, so we're getting a county agent to come out and the NRCS pasture range specialist to come out and do an assessment of your normal grazing loss as well. For NAP, you have to report your acres, and you have to report your production on a consistent basis. So we all kind of boil down to keeping the records, keeping the documentation of what you have. And I passed out these other two handouts that go just talk about establishing and jump-starting your farm and a ranching operation with FSA. For all FSA, all NRCS, or any farm loan. My farm loan officer, Mr. Martin Father, may want to touch on some micro loans and some emergency loan policy with you to discuss those things. I believe he's present virtually. In order to get a track and go to these programs, if you did the coronavirus food assistance program, you did not have to have a form and a track established. For the livestock indemnity program, you do not have to have a form and a track. But for all of these other programs, you have to have a form and a track. I passed out some of those forms 2047. If you're a new customer to us, that is the form to submit to start establishing your farm records. And then in order to get a form and a tract, if you are an entity, you do a CCC 901, which is the member's information. In order to get the farm serial number, which is we go into our digital imagery on GIS system and we draw off the boundaries of your farm and tract. We'll need a description, proof of ownership. A lot of times we can verify that proof of ownership on the assessor's website map. If you lease the property, we'll need a lease. If you're an entity, we'll need your articles of incorporation and that 901 to say who's a member, who has signature authority for your company. Tax IDs. Well, every payment that we have is going to go through a tax ID number, so we need that as well. This just gives you some examples of some proof of ownership documentation. And then once we get that form and that track established for you, then you can begin applying for these other programs. Does anybody have any questions about any of our programs or establishing farm records?
Yeah, Tammy, can you help people understand how the various programs are divided into product or inventory and infrastructure? If indeed you have anything that addresses infrastructure as well as product and inventory or standard stock or whatever it is.
Unfortunately, we do not have a disaster program that addresses infrastructure. The only program that we have that would maybe provide you some assistance with that is if your infrastructure damages like farms, any type of storage facility that you have, nurseries, if your debris, if it's on the cropland, then we can help clean it up through the ECP program. I know a lot of people have those hoop houses. NRCS has been in talk about maybe, and probably Joshua can cover that, maybe providing some assistance livestock indemnity program. If you haven't filed an acreage report for this year, unfortunately, our deadline was July 15th, and it's a $31 fee to file it late, in order to be eligible for those assistance. That fee has not been waived, to my knowledge.
To clarify is, so what you're saying is, you're not covering building damage, but if that building damage caused damage to your crop.
If that building damage caused debris on your crops, if it's actual cropland or pasture land, we can help provide assistance to clean that and remove that
In
debris.
the sense of aquaculture and that coming down on tanks, is that also?
Tanks. I'm really am gonna have to ask that question about the tanks. I know if it's in a pond, for certain. Now, if it's in your aquaculture tanks, quite possible. Quite possible.
And then what if you already paid someone to remove that and get the bill?
Okay.
Any reimbursement? or
Do you
anything like
have
that?
the bill and do you have documentation and pictures of the damages? Okay. Yes, keep that. It is possible that goes to our county committee and they'll review that. The more documentation you have, the better off you will when you go for that review. And the bill that, if it's an emergency type situation, which I'm sure it was, you have to get the debris off your fish, then we can provide a waiver for that. Did I clarify that okay for you? Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions about USDA assistance or establishing form records?
On debris cleanup, trees particularly, I heard you keep all the good records, I understand all that, and the hours that your labor works and yourself. And I did speak with Chris the other day at my farm, he stopped out, had a long visit, I should have asked him more, but I'm gonna ask you now.
Okay.
On the labor that I'll hire, I typically hire young school boys, high school boys to help me in the field and do whatever, but there's two, starting tomorrow, 2 of them. But what does USDA pay for any labor prices for labor?
Prices for
I'm
labor.
sure I'm paying maybe less than what USDA is, but give it a shot.
For labor, the price our committee set this year was $11 an hour.
That's exactly what I'm paying.
For management, $15 an hour. Well, look, and I'm glad you brought that up because if you pay your labor cash, make sure
I pay
you get
cash.
them to sign a statement saying they received this much money for you and they
Per
worked this many
day,
hours.
per day.
Per day.
Each day is gonna be different
You
hours.
can, if you just keep track of it and at the end have them sign a statement that they received that from you.
Okay. And their names, I'm gonna ask, and their
And
names?
their names.
Okay.
I mean, they're not gonna have to go into our system, but we just need to record it that,
Do we need their age?
No.
Okay.
We don't need their
That'd be like the same thing as like all my beehives. I had somebody come in, put them back up and my chicken coop, look, everything all over, the debris and all. That's the same thing?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I can make those boys a little happier and pay them $12 or $13 an hour.
But the most that we're gonna pay for it is 11.
No problems.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Just make sure you keep, some of the problems we've seen with that in the past, or workers who come in for a day job, the former didn't know to get a statement, paid them cash, and then he couldn't locate it again. So just make sure you keeping track of that.
What about myself, the owner of the
Just
farm?
keep track of your,
Keep track of
we have an exhibit, a little sheet that you can go, when you sign up for ECP, we'll send to you to put your own hours, your own equipment, anything that you use.
And I estimate it's gonna take me a month with the help of those boys, at least. And that's pushing it. I probably won't finish in a month. I always underestimate. So what's a deadline on that cleanup?
You have a year from the time that you were approved for the practice, a year.
A year? Oh,
A
yeah,
year.
nothing got it.
And yes, sir, but if something were to happen between now and then, and you have some extenuating circumstances, you don't think you're gonna get it done within that year, you contact us and request an extension. Did somebody else have their hand? Yes, sir.
Yeah,
most of these programs seem to involve being the owner of the land. We're beekeepers, so our bees, we 5 apiaries are other people's land. I'm guessing when we want to look at ELAP and kind of ignore the other programs, is that correct?
Yes, sir. And then if, first with beekeepers, you have to be commercially certified with the state, registered as a commercial producer. Beekeeping is a little bit different. What we usually look at is we draw a form and a track on your production facility. Even if you have beehives strung out across the state, I know some of our bee producers even move them out of state during certain times of the year. That is okay. We only need to look at one place where your processing facility exists in order to draw your form and your tracks. But we're going to have to get the records of your inventory. So even if you don't own the land, or if you do own the land where your processing facility is, that's what you're going to register with us. Not every single location that you have those beehives. And then when you report your acreage, we're going to take like an inventory report on your acreage. And I think those state certificates have usually a high count on those. Does that answer your question? No, sir? Okay, what? Keep asking what you got.
We got 5 locations, but the damage is all in one location.
Okay.
All the hives will, we got photographs.
And that's okay if it's only in one location, because we're not looking at the actual form number. We have to have a form number, but that's going to be your processing facility. But if your damage is only in one location, we're going to look at your operation as a whole, but you can be compensated for the hives that you lost in that one location. There's a hive rate and then there's a colony rate. You can't get both. It also pays for in the future, when we're not looking at disasters for honeybees, colony collapse syndrome. Yes, sir. Any?
So, Ms. Jamie, you rattled off a few programs, and going through my parish emergency officer or agent, and that number up there, I can move on guidance. They have a local agents with the USDA that can help them.
They should be able to help you. They should be able to help you. I know I tried to get in touch with Plaquemines Parish yesterday, and it seemed like all their phone lines were still down. And that's exactly what happened to us, where I reside in Lacush as well. I'm gonna keep trying. If somebody has a number, to put me in touch with those people and the different parish offices, so I can, because unfortunately the number that's published for us everywhere on our website is that main line.
Message them on Facebook. Their Plaquemines Parish government Facebook, they monitor that one.
Okay.
That would be the best way to contact them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
When's that number gonna be effective again? Or at least the one in Edgar? Or is that what,
The one in Edgar, we are completely down in Edgar because of damage to the building.
that one's good
So
now?
we're servicing everybody out of the Thibodeau office right now. That one should work. If by chance that doesn't work, catch me on my email. Any other questions? All right, Anna, you got my contact information. I'm fixing to head down to Plaquemines to see some of the damages there and do some site assessing. But if you need anything, please feel free to contact our office, start gathering your things to set up your form records, and myself and my staff will be happy to assist you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in person from NRCS here today, or is it virtual? Okay, we're gonna load John Boatman up next. John Boatman is gonna be on deck from NRCS. Give us 1 second to get him queued up.
Yeah, I guess I'll figure that, but I wonder which one I like, what the wrong. All right, does he have a presentation?
No presentation.
I'm right now.
Yeah. Something.
You gotta go through that probably, huh? Oh, you said you're drinking? Oh, well, there you go. Buy him a different drink. Okay. Oh, shit, I was gonna say, I get in touch with you. My concern is the tube has those holes. They're not fresh. Those contact, or should I pull those out? You should pull it, you should clean those, just scrub brush or something, do something. Yeah, they'll be pretty soap. Nobody's gonna, and this, look, it's just really the flow and that would have been a way to go. So the only thing that's missing right now is there's no oxygen in there. So if we slowly we're not taking this. Yeah, it's not dissolved in the water. Yeah, it's. That's all it's like.
Is that all right, Chris? Okay, we're gonna start it up again. I got NRCS ready.
Ready?
Yep, we're ready for you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's funny looking at myself on the screen because it seems like there's a little delay. So that's it may be a little time used to it. But my name is John Boatman, and I work in the Luling USDA Service Center. I work closely with Jamie. NRCS and FSA are usually housed in the same location, but our area is a little unique. But basically, I work the same area that the Edgard FSA office would cover, which would be St. John, St. Charles, Jefferson, Orleans, St. Bernard, and Plaquemine Parish. My title, I'm a resource conservationist. I also work in our resource unit 13, which also includes Donaldsonville and Thibodaux service centers. So we all closely work together. As an agency, NRCS, we offer technical and financial assistance to farmers, ranchers, non-industrial private land users to help solve their resource concerns. Some of these resource concerns could be considered like soil erosion, water quality, soil quality, plant production and health, wildlife habitat, and many others. Our financial assistance comes through mainly the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or EQIP, and it's not a disaster program, much like what Jamie had mentioned about FSA. This is just a regular financial assistance program that we have year to year. And it involves cost share. It's not a grant program, but cost share for an installation of conservation practices that would help solve the resource concerns that I mentioned earlier. Some of these practices, for an example, would be high tunnels. I heard people mention high tunnels. They're very popular in our area, high tunnel systems. But also we cost share like on cover crops, like in sugarcane fields or precision land farming. We also cost share on establishing conservation cover to establish pollinator habitat, beneficial insects. And for livestock producers, we'll cost share on practices that would help facilitate rotational grazing, such as cross fencing, whether it's barbed wire or net wire or electric fencing, water troughs, and livestock pipeline. And in some cases, water wells, maybe not in our area, but other areas in the state. Also for forestry, for tree and shrub establishment, we can also cost share with that, and a forest site prep that would be necessary to establish the trees and shrubs. Like I said before, it's we have a payment cost for each one of these practices. It usually amounts to a cost share somewhere between 50 and 75%. But we also have a higher payment for beginning farmers and those that are historically underserved, similar to what Jamie had mentioned earlier. We have a continuous sign up. You can sign up for EQIP all through the year. But we do have certain funding pools that we have deadlines established for that. And the first funding pool, the deadline for application is November 22nd. But we will continue to accept applications after that. And if funding is available, we'll have a second and maybe even a possibly a third funding pool. You have to register with FSA. Jamie mentioned that before with our program. It's similar with ours. You have to register with FSA in order to get a form and track number. And we can't accept your application or can't enter your application until you have a form and track number. We do have, on occasion, sign up specifically addressing disasters. Winter of last year, there was a lot of storm damage from the snow and ice damage, especially in North Louisiana. And we had specific funding pools through EQIP to help repair damages to high tunnel systems and also damaged forest land. I haven't heard anything yet if there's going to be a specific disaster sign up similar to that for Hurricane Ida. Excuse me. We also have this is not for producers, but it could indirectly benefit producers. We have a program is called the Emergency Watershed Program, or EWP for short. And we give financial assistance to local governing bodies in a declared disaster such as Ida. And the purpose of it is to remove debris from waterways. I heard somebody mention earlier about removing debris from fields. Well, this would be waterways. It could be drainage canals, natural streams, where you get trees and debris blocking at least 50% of that drainage way. So we provide financial assistance to the local governing bodies for debris removal. Also, if there's any damage to non-federal or non-core levees, we can help repair those levees or bring them back to how they were prior to the storm. I believe Anna may have some handouts. I have some handouts there that involves the EQIP program, and it's got all the contact information there. But you can call our office in Luling is open by appointment, and the best way to reach me would be to call 985-331-9084. Extension 3. I also have that number, and somebody's already calling me. I failed to mute everything, I guess. So no. So, also, like I say, if you need any more information, you can call, we can set up an appointment, or I can answer, what information over the phone. So are there any questions?
Can you repeat your phone number again for us, John?
Oh, sure, definitely. 985-331-9084, extension 3.
Great, and we'll email that out to everyone as well.
Okay.
Are there any questions? Yes.
How soon, John, are you gonna make appointments to come out to the properties? Because you were supposed to come to us after the first week of September for Graham's harvest.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the storm may have had something to do with preventing that, but I'm open to schedule a time.
Okay.
I'll keep it. I'll reach out to you, and we'll schedule an appointment.
Thank you.
For farmers who did have damage to their high tunnels and want to start rebuilding, can they start doing that and still receive funding later on for if you all do approve that? The question, John, was if farmers had damage to their high tunnel, can they start rebuilding now and get reimbursed at a later date, perhaps?
Normally, you would have to apply with us first, and we would have to develop a contract before you would begin construction. There are some exceptions to that, but you must apply with us first. Once the high tunnel is completed, then we make a payment. In some cases, you can receive an advance payment of 50% also.
Does that answer it?
Other questions for John? Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you, John. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Anna.
Okay, next up, yep, market umbrella.
Are you gonna push me here, or do you have a?
We have a clicker, and Chris has the slideshow.
What presentation?
The market umbrella one. Crescent fund. We have a comment from Josh. Yes, he wants to add. Chris?
You got John's comment? Josh? Oh.
We have to take a comment from Josh real quick, but then we'll have
I know I like popped up.
But I don't have anything else to say.
They coming through there, Anna, John? No, I mean, you need this. Rusty wants you to, when he's presenting, to open up the Sea Grant website and have it projected. Okay, guys, we got another comment from Josh Anderson here.
So Real quick, I'm the district conservationist for the LaRue 13 that Mr. Boatman mentioned, and work for NRCS. Like you said, we work closely with FSA here in y'all's area. But I just wanted to add one thing. John did a great job explaining our EQIP and EWP and those things. But I'm not sure how it applies to the group at hand, but we do have potential for emergency animal, excuse me, mortality management. So, and that would be under EQIP. And what that is if we have a livestock producer, whether cattle or poultry, we have potential to help cost share their disposal of those animals, whether it be composting or whatnot. So if anybody is interested in that, please reach out to that phone number that Mr. Boatman listed. And then I can also provide you the phone number. Well, Jamie provided you the phone number for the Thibodeau field office. So you can also reach out to us there. That's all I wanted to add. Apologize for not being able to be there in person today, but thankfully I was able to join virtually.
Thanks so much, Josh. Are there any questions for Josh?
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Did you say it was I mean, I guess I could just show what's there on the screen. That'd be fine. Okay.
Next up, we're going to have Market Umbrella talk about the Crescent City Farmers Market and the fund that they have.
Are you gonna share that, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying, dude, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Okay.
We're good?
I'm gonna click, so just let me know. It might not work.
All right, well, anyway, so my name is Angelina Harrison. I'm the Director of Markets with Market Umbrella. I'm here with our market manager, Sierra Torres. I've been with the organization for the last 5 years. Sierra's relatively new with us, but we have most recently been working on Hurricane Ida recovery and, starting September 30th, just making sure that we're connecting with all of our producers, making sure everybody has what they need, and starting up our Crescent Fund. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. A little bit about our organizational history. And if you want to click through the next slide, please. What did we put up here? To cultivate the field of public markets for public good. So we run producer-only farmers markets in Orleans Parish. Previously, we've been in Orleans and Jefferson parishes. Since COVID, we're back in just Orleans. And then we run a host of nutrition incentive programs as well to better serve the eaters of the community. We do farmer school programming, technical assistance for our producers, just a wide range of food system activities. We started in 1995, so last year, COVID year was like our 25th anniversary. Here we are in 2021, which is super great too. And celebrating our 26th anniversary. We started with our market. I'm sorry, I've just been like dwelling on this. This year better or worse than last year. With our market down in the CBD, that market is currently running in the city park now on Sundays. Many changes, especially in the past year with COVID adaptations. We originally started out under Loyola University, but became an independent nonprofit in 2008. Currently, we operate the Sunday market, which I mentioned in City Park. We're back at our Tuesday, our like traditional Tuesday location uptown, and we have a Thursday market in Mid-City. And then one of our COVID pivots, one thing that we introduced like immediately, a kind of aggregated CSA model, sourced from our producer network, and then delivered to customers through our partners, Top Box. So that's kind of our markets over the course of the week. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we are producer-only markets, really like a key focus of ours. We currently have about over 60 vendors, down from close to 100 prior to COVID, and over 100,000 shoppers over the course of the year. And now to get into our Crescent Fund. So we put this map together just so that we could kind of visualize, and we're kind of stunned with the results when we got it. Basically, all the blue dots represent one of both the producers in our network, and the red overlay is the trajectory that IDA took and the path of impact. So you can see pretty much every single producer in our network was impacted by this storm. So quickly after the storm, we the method that we've used in the past to be able to collect donations from external sources and then be able to deliver that directly to producers. 100% of everything that's raised goes to our producers within our network, which again, over 60 of them currently. A few photos that people submitted. So we did a round one of grant making, which was up to $500 for every applicant who was a vendor in good standing within our network, experienced IDA-related damages or sales losses, just to really, our focus is getting producers back to market. So what do people need immediately to get back? So that $500 started going out the 2 weeks ago already, and we've approved over $20,000 in grants for that. We received applications from our vendors displaying the damage that they experienced. This is Tony Pardo, Barnett, Thibodeau. Star Nursery, and I see some of our vendors in this room, and I know a lot of these pictures are not going to be just tons of very excessively damaged. Cajun growers have been cut off their hydroponic tomato operation to months. So he's an 80. Anyhow, hydroponic tomato growers in that area took it pretty bad when looking at traffic devastation. One of the high points.
Who's the hydroponic tomato?
Two of our growers in a similar area. They're Tomat's Cajun Farm and Cajun Growers. White Oaks Farm. Yeah. So we launched the fund August 31st. We kind of had a feeling we would need to beforehand, got everything ready to go. The slides we made yesterday, but we've currently raised over $64,000 from 287 donors. So we're getting a lot of support with this. We've been getting some news media traction, and it's just nice because this, recovery is going to be, it's going to take time, and so to still be having some traction with it has been really beneficial. Like I said, we made over $20,000 of grants so far to over 48 applicants that applied through our network. So 48 out of 60, the vast majority of our vendors are impacted to some extent. And through the application process, we've had reported over $1.6 million in damages. So what we would what we envision is a round two of grant making once we're, being able to identify gaps. What was the damage? What is the support you're getting through other programs, through insurance? And then what is the gap that's left to, get you back to market. And so that's what we'll be doing with the rest of the fund until it's gone. Any assistance that we can get and like spreading the word about it would be very helpful. We have recently had some different local restaurants kind of take up the cause, and so different individuals or restaurant groups are doing different fundraising efforts for the producers who they're normally sourcing from. And then, our other primary effort is just in getting the markets up and running, because there are some people with products, some crops, although, September is not a big crop month in this area anyhow, but for things that people do have to sell, and value-added goods, especially the markets, when did we start? September 14th? Got those back up and running, so those are back available for our producers. And then I also just wanted to mention, kind of like as a segue to other community partners that we work with, we assist our producers are connecting them to our other community partners like Sprout in particular to help with those kinds of USDA, NRCS, and FEMA relief applications. As well as, we're still like in the crux of COVID, so the CFAP and soon the PRS, all the different like COVID relief efforts as well. And that, does anybody have any questions about any of that? Well, I'm around and you have all my contact information.
For the record, I love you all as well.
Okay.
You should be able to, do full screen.
Oh my gosh. I haven't talked to a group of people in like 2 years. Digitally, I have a lot, but I used to see faces like this a lot. I'm super happy to be back up here. Hi everyone, I'm Margie, I'm the Executive Director of Sprout NOLA, and hopefully some of what I can tell you all about ties a little bit of what you've been hearing from a lot of different entities together. So we're a nonprofit that does farmer and gardener technical assistance and training. Basically, we're just here to help y'all access the resources to be better growers, for there to be more food in our community, for there to be more accessible food to the people who want to be eating fresh local food, all that good stuff. So I'm going to start quickly with our IDA-specific resources, but then we also have some general stuff that's really helpful when we have overlapping disasters happening, like Angelina mentioned with this CFAP, and also Jamie mentioned with the CFAP. So on our website, which is sproutnola.org, there's just a quick one sheet that's got a compilation of IDA resources. So it's got those FEMA resources, it's got guest worker resources, it's got rental assistance resources, it's got DSNAP resources, it's got the Crescent Fund, and it's got all of the resources from your USDA and FSA offices. If you see that sheet and there's something missing from it that you'd like to add, just go ahead and shoot me an email, or you can call me. I'll give you my number and my email at the end, and I have cards with me. We'd love to add anything to that sheet. The idea is just having everything in one concise location. It's also got the disaster assessment survey from LSU on it, and it's got some info on getting Dr. Joe and Anna out to do some assessments as well. I wanted to kind of follow up on what you've been hearing a lot about record keeping. So there's the record keeping for the store, which everybody wants you to do. We really need you to do that. Also, as you're seeing, there are a lot of federal programs, there are a lot of local programs and state programs that require that have a history of record keeping too. So it's not just, I started record keeping about the one tree that fell on my farm that I cut down today. We need to see that you've been producing food and producing things in your community, or trying to, right? Making an effort. So running a farm or running a farm food-related business, we just need to see that history of you making investments into that work. It doesn't mean that you have to be nailing it every year and having a profit. I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of people's taxes. Not a lot of us make a huge profit. Don't be shy. It's okay. Food work is hard work. So in terms of that record keeping, that will help you access any of those programs that come down when there's a disaster, when there's a pandemic, when there's a hurricane, when there's a flooding incident. So us having those records is really helpful in getting you those resources. If anyone wants help with figuring out their record keeping system, we do classes and workshops on this, but we also have office hours where I'm happy to just sit and talk with you about how you document what goes in at your farm and what goes out. And just like Dr. Strain said, it can be as easy as just taking pictures. So I'm a farmer myself. I take pictures when I plant. I keep a record of how much I plant out, and then I keep sales records of what I sell. I can't slide one sheet across the table to you at any given time that shows you all of that, but when I need to go back and do the math of what went in and what went out, I have the records to do that. And so those systems can be really easy, and they can not take a lot of time, and they'll make you a better producer. The other things that we have for IDA is that we do consolidated cold storage. So if you are having a cold storage issue, I think 3 days after the storm, we were able to get cold storage up and running. That is open to anybody. If you have an issue and you need to get your local fresh products into a cooler, this is not just like, I have a bunch of meat because I'm a deer hunter and I want your freezer for me. This is like, I have local food I need to get to market. We have cold storage resources to help y'all with that. And we are working on getting those resources to be off-grid for the next hurricane season. We signed a contract today to expand the amount of cold storage that we have for disaster relief and to work on getting it on solar. So we want you all to know about that in anticipation of storms moving forward, so that instead of looking back and going, shoot, I'm about power for 5 days now, I gotta figure it out, you know you can give us a call in advance of the storm and reserve some space. The other thing is we're doing a fresh food purchasing fund with our partners, Veggie, the Vietnamese Farmers Cooperative in the East. We have a little bit of buying power to buy fresh products from y'all and be able to get those to folks in need who don't have fresh food down the bayou. So if you have something that hasn't been able to sell, I cannot make promises. We don't have a huge amount of money, but we do have the ability and the desire to help move some of that fresh product and make sure that the folks who are just eating MREs are getting their food. So again, that's a call or an email. I'll give you those numbers afterwards. And we're looking into doing some of that purchasing for citrus coming up too. So that's a big one. Those office hours are 1 to 3 every other Wednesday. So you can just drop in and we can talk through whatever it is that you need assistance with. Those are digital. You can always set up to do in-person outdoors if that's better for you. But what we handle in those office hours are, you've heard about CFAP too, or the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. So we have on our website as well as one of those top bars that says CFAP. If you want to look into this, you can go to that link, and we laid out an entire Google form that walks you through what you need to submit to apply for that CFAP. It is open until October 12th. We're here to help you walk through that. Most of y'all, if you're in this room, are going to be submitting that form to Jamie. She's awesome. Some of you might be submitting to other parishes as well. It's a really easy, just a lot of filling out a form. We can do that with you. We can talk you through your questions, because questions do come up, and then we just shoot it over in an email. And for the most part, then there is a deposit in your bank account after a couple months and you just didn't hear anything about it. It's a really wonderful program. It is also expanded to include whatever your profits were from 2019. So it's now going back a year, which has been really helpful. So if you submitted and you received a payment, but the previous year of your farm sales were better, you can resubmit now. And that's again until October 12th. And then, okay. So the other thing I want to talk about is with FSA, we are also here during those office hours to help you with accessing FSA loans. Those are operating loans, and those are ownership loans. If you don't qualify for those loans, we also have some private lending partners that we are able to connect people to in farm business loans for farm ownership loans. And then in terms of that pandemic response grant that Angelina was just mentioning, it is still like a projected opportunity. It's not yet an open opportunity, but we'd like, if you feel that you might qualify for y'all to get working on getting that DUNS number. So anyone who applies is going to need a DUNS number. We can use those office hours to help you get a DUNS number. It's also very simple. You do not ever have to pay for a DUNS number. If you end up on a website that tells you you need to pay for a DUNS number, it's a fake website. So you want to go to DUNS and Bradstreet, and it doesn't cost you any money, but it does take a few days. So I always say there are going to be more federal opportunities that are coming through grants.gov. You'll need a DUNS number for any of those. For anyone who's wondering, the DUNS number is just a federal identification number for an entity that's applying for a grant or relief or a cost share, all sorts of things. So go ahead and get that DUNS, or come to us, we'll help you get that DUNS. But the pandemic response grant covers a whole host of things about any pivots your business might have faced during coronavirus. So that looks like expanding the space that you're washing and packing for worker safety. That looks like pivoting to a different market channel. That looks like purchasing PPE. It's kind of anything that any of you all had to have done and you're still operating right now, basically. So the floor of that award is $1,500, the ceiling is $20,000, and there's about $700 million of funding on the table, so a lot of people are going to get money from that. The other thing is that in getting DUNS numbers, we're also here to help you get that LLC or your sole proprietorship. If you haven't done that yet, getting all these things set up is really important, especially when we have rapid intensification of storms. There are going to be more storms. We just know that that's a fact of life living in South Louisiana. And then also just want to express that we're here for y'all and thinking through strategy. So if you just want someone to bounce ideas off about how all of these things connect together, you've got LSU, you've got the USDA. Under the USDA, you have the FSA, you have your markets, you have nonprofits. There's a lot going on. So we can kind of help clean that up and figure out like maybe what you're looking for and where that aid can come from. And I just also want to say we are here to talk through sustainability on farms as well. So like I said, we have rapid intensification of storms. That's part of the climate crisis that all of our farms have the ability to participate in slowing. And so we are here to work through, fertility plans or any sort of planting changes that you all might want to be doing in order to kind of build resiliency on your farm in terms of environmental impacts. I think that's it for us. Oh, so there's a workshop today that is an LSU workshop as part of an RMA and Jeremy grant writing process. But the workshop today is Wholeness Organic Farms is going to be doing a CSA workshop that's digitally, it's at 1. So you basically would have to go watch it in your car. But that'll be coming up, and then on the 7th, there's a grant writing workshop through that same LSU Ag program. And I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions for me?
So when you do the DUNS number, do you click on contract or vendor, or do you guarantee an applicant?
Say it again. What was the second one?
Guarantee an applicant, that's what I meant.
Guarantee an
That's what
applicant.
you do? Okay.
Yeah. So you're applying as an applicant for a DUNS number. Cool. And then also all of this is just easy. All of those forms like the 80, 20, 47 that Jamie gave y'all, that is all part of that CFAP worksheet process. So if you just want a fillable link form, they'll, USDA did all the work in putting those into fillable links, but we have them easy indexed on the troutmoland.org website up there at CFAP 2 is the link that you're clicking on. Yeah.
Can you give us your contact?
I can give you my contact.
Number and email?
Yep, so the number is 985-373-6188. My email is Nargee, that's MARGEE @spreadnola.org.
Please repeat that number, the DUNS number you called it, which you were.
DUNS, D-U-N-S. Yeah, and it's Duns and Bradstreet. Dudley and Bradstreet is the organization that issues them.
I wasn't clear what you were saying about the CFAP being extended. If you've already received a CFAP payment,
yep,
can you reapply?
You can reapply using the year that is more advantageous for you financially.
If we apply I think it was the fall of 2020. I think we had to do 2019 at that point.
Sorry, yeah, so it's extended now. That
was actually a higher grossing year for us. Is that something that you could then reapply for 2021?
You wouldn't be able to apply for 2020 because it's a relief for the impact, right? So, but showing that, like, this is kind of the high point strategy thinking we can do is that where that is important to know is that if you all want to apply for a pandemic response grant, it's really cool to hear that the 2020 number was higher than a previous year, because that's a really good thing to be able to show in like whatever pivot you did. in serving people, whether it's leaning into CSA more for y'all. So that's where that comes in. And then if your 2018 number is higher than your 2019 number, you can reapply with your 2018 number. Because if you made less than $500,000 through farming enterprises, which I'm going to guess most of us did, you get 10.9% of whatever that revenue was. Over $500,000, that percentage starts going down. So what I've told people is it is new paperwork. If the discrepancy between your 2018 and your 2019 sales is $1,000, that might not really be worth your time to rehash. But if you have, a $20,000 bump in sales from 2018 or loss from 2018 to 2019, then it might be better to go ahead and reapply with those 2018 numbers.
And who's giving out the pandemic response grant?
That's gonna be an AMS grant, so Agricultural Marketing Services. It's USDA.
They're supposed to announce that today.
Yep.
The full announcement. So keep your eyes out for more details on that.
And that window will be open for 45 days. So that application window will be open for 45 days. Grants.gov workspaces, which is what they call the application portal for applying for any of those grants, are a little bit confusing. So if you do need help from us in working through that, please try to get on my calendar, sooner rather than later. Because a lot of these things, we can't figure out within the last 24 hours of submitting those grants. The website will stall, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think this question is for anybody that has spoken to us today, but I'm asking you because I feel like you might actually have an answer. I'm wondering about mental health resources for farmers and just where we can turn if we we just have issues that are greater than cleaning up or financial responsibilities or whatnot.
Yeah. I do not actually have an answer for you about that. I think that's a collective question. I think that's a great collective question. I will say one of the things that jogs for me is that the SBA, I didn't mention this, we can also help with SBA loans, which can be personal loans, they can be home loans, they can be business loans, and they're very low interest. And I would encourage folks who are, having a hard time getting back to normal immediately, to consider moving slowly. Having been through disasters myself, I think the best thing that you can do is just not feel like you have to go back to perfect production immediately, and take the time that you need. There can be a feeling that it's we all have to get back to normal immediately, and I think that really exacerbates mental health problems for a lot of people. So unfortunately, I hate coaching people into loans or debt. That's something we try to avoid doing. But if there are ways that we can help people slow down their season, if that's what they need, then I want to make sure that that's a resource that's available. But that's a great question, and I'm super happy to look into it more.
That's something I can follow up with a couple of organizations. Also, the Southeast Farm Health Institute, I'm on their board, and it might be something we have resources for. So I'll make sure I email that out.
Thanks. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, next up we have Rusty Godet with Sea Grant Program.
Chris, can you? Okay, my name is Rusty Godet. I'm the coastal fishery agent at least officially for Orleans, Jefferson, St. Charles, and St. John. So my area of responsibility has been heavily impacted. The last event, this will be my 12th hurricane to work. So I'm kind of used to this dog and pony show, the way it's happened. Sea Grant is a branch of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is weather, most people know it as the Weather Service, but it's also the National Marine Fisheries Service, which is under the Department of Commerce. So as it would say, Department of Commerce is about business. So our charge is to responsibly use the assets of a particular coastal region. That includes the fisheries, but it also includes, marshland and stuff like that. So in this event, we have a lot of fishery impact. Most of us only know fishery substances as they sit on our plate. But the fishery industry is a big driver, a big economic driver for the state of Louisiana, especially for South Louisiana. I've been working personally since the hurricane on the vessels, the compromised vessels, and the provision of ice and power and water to the particular buying docks, so we can get whoever has a vessel that has not been compromised, they can get out there and go to work. We still have shrimp, we still have fish, but we have problems right now with the not so much the harvest, but actually the transport back to the buying docks. Once we get it to the buying docks, then we can get it out. I only see a couple of people in here who loosely deal with the fishery aspects of it. Not to say that bait is a small industry. Bait, the last survey we did, which I think was in 2005, the bait industry alone to the state of Louisiana is an $84 million business. It's big business. So it's not to be discounted as far as its importance. Chris, could you put it on that? We've got the hit on that link. Right. So on this hurricane response thing, this post-item resources over here, we will be posting some different things that are specifically to the fishery industry on helpful things. Again, Sea Grant is not so much a funding agency as it is a management tool for the NOAA system. So we go out and we interface with the ground, or in some cases the water, and we figure out what needs to be done. That being said, we had a couple of programs which were in place pre-IDA that may be tweaked a little bit to be a little bit more responsive and a little bit more sensitive to the needs of our aquaculture people, specifically the alternative oyster culture people, or what we call AOC. This is the oysters that are grown in the bags, cages, and stuff like that. There's a number of both private, GNO, and NGOs and federal programs that will be coming out with a little bit of assistance packages for the fishery industry. We are, as we speak, we are applying for a fishery disaster status that will go up to Washington and undoubtedly bring some dollars back. How much will be brought back and how it's going to be distributed remains to be seen. For instance, right after Katrina, one of the packages that had a little bit of money left in it was repurposed and actually went into the pockets of the oystermen for services that they rendered to the oyster ground survey program. So things can be repurposed based on the current conditions that we find right now. So in this particular website here, if you click on this, doesn't it open up? No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's just more stuff than it is.
Yeah, so this is,
That hyperlink right there on the left, resources, maps, and imagery using ping links.
right, well, if you drill down in any one of these links, you can see that it is resources that the fishermen need that are available sometimes almost exclusively to federal partners like myself, but we make it available to the general public, especially the harvest sector, the boat owners and stuff like that. I want to reiterate something that was said previously about the SBA. You know, disasters like this will kind of shock you into looking at your program. It shocks you into looking, where am I going with this program before the hurricane? Do I want to still go there? Because you can make adjustments to your lifestyle, your life goal, and it can help you be a little bit more complete in your approach. So with SBA, you're often allowed that redirection. And I would encourage you, from my own experience with SBA, to not to get in debt necessarily, but to maybe look at SBA as a way to refocus your, not only your present business, but your life direction. So if you go back to home, and go to outreach, and somewhere over there it says extension agents and specialists inside. You click on that, and then here are our agents. And again, we're focused on the coastal area. We have a variety of people, myself included, that work with the different parishes. Of course, the island impact is mostly over here. So Dominique is to the Lac and St. Bernard. Nicole is over in Terrebonne Fourche. I'm over here in Jefferson and Orleans, and Carol is on the North Shore. So anything fishery related, again, we can't cut you a check, but we can point you in the right direction for what you're trying to do, whether it's to cover a boat or to, for instance, with all the debris in the water, there are options for harvesters that if they encounter things in their net and they damage their net, there is a hang fund. It's called a hang fund. And that hang fund will compensate you for the damages to your net. So those types of things are not commonplace. It's not a common conversation over a breakfast table for most people. But for fishermen, it's a big deal. So let's see, I guess if you click on me, there's, just scroll down. Let's just scroll down. And I'm somewhere right there. So that's me.
Don't look for him in the Oval Office.
No, I am seldom in my office. I've got 4 parishes, and any one of those parishes for me to get to is basically a whole day. So, but I am available at my cell phone, which is not on there. Okay. Email address. So if you have any questions specific to fisheries or coastal resources, I can help you with that. I'm a former beekeeper, I'm a former cattleman. I can talk bees and I can talk cows, but it's not my forte today. And I am a horticulturist. Any questions? Yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, Russ, shrimp boat damaged beyond repair,
there are resources to fix, replace, or?
There are no fishery angels, none, that can cumulatively pick up a boat and bring it to the, you know, there's a variety of packages of recovery. Most of them start with the U.S. Coast Guard. They bring in the Corps of Engineers. At some point, the U.S. Navy is involved. And depending upon if your vessel is what they call mission applicable, is that vessel in the channel of navigable water? If it is mission applicable, then it will be removed no matter what.
Right.
And it will be removed in a variety of ways that if you're wise, you're going to be on site when that lift is made, and you might possibly be able to get that boat back. If you leave the fate of your vessel to other hands, it may end up someplace else. So
let's say floodwaters brought it onto land and deposited it there, but
if
it's
not
destroyed.
If it's destroyed, then that would be an act of abandonment.
Okay.
From your point. The salvage of vessels that are not mission applicable is a very complicated and sticky mess that one has to go through if you think your boat is recoverable. If it's not recoverable, then you should go through an act of abandonment for it and leave it to the fate of the winds. It's an ugly process, but ultimately the boat owner is responsible for the fate of that vessel. It's just like your car. If you've got a 57 Chevrolet convertible and you think it's the bee's knees and it goes underwater, it's still your car. And you're responsible for its fate. If you want to take it and sandblast it and fix it up, that's fine. If you want to abandon it, if you want to walk away from it, then that's your choice too. And these boats are very heavy, very expensive, and oftentimes salvage is not an economically viable thing. That being said, many of them are fixable. And many of the boats that went down in Laurel, in Harvey, in Katrina, and here in Ida will live to fish another day.
Rusty, we have a question from the chat. Are there any programs for lost bait shrimp in bait tanks due to long-term power loss?
I don't have anything in that unless, you know, the bait operators would, that would be the same thing as saying you have a greenhouse with tomatoes in it and the tomatoes claimable.
Right.
Would that I don't know that Jamie's program actually covers harvested bait items that are sequestered in tanks as aquaculture. I don't know that. If you raise fish from fingerlings, that would become aquaculture. Just like in the oyster world, the oysters in cages are considered aquaculture. The same oyster that is grown outside of bottom is not considered, at least in this state. Well, let me rephrase it. Within the state, we call it aquaculture. Outside of this state, they look back at us and say, that's not aquaculture.
What about soft-shell crabs?
Soft-shell crabs would be the same situation. If you got 50 trays and they were loaded with busters, then it's the same thing as a tomato. Your infrastructure, again, is a whole different thing. It's product and infrastructure.
Should we have them contact maybe Jamie to get some clarification, with these different?
Jamie and I have been in many conversations about the status of aquaculture. Those people who have crawfish ponds, you have an option of trying to make a claim against lost production. But I would suggest that you put your efforts into mitigating the damages that are potentially in front of you by doing certain management techniques. We have several crawfish experts with the LSU Ag Center and Sea Grant that can advise you on potential actions that would mitigate your negative impacts. So, yes.
Trying to get a little clarity on the status of bait shrimp. And I kind of get a little precedent with thinking about crab shank. Crabs are harvested, brought in, nurtured, as the definition of aquaculture is with fisheries.
Well,
but the bait, same thing except you're not feeding.
You're not feeding crabs either.
Right. But so why would one be considered aquaculture and one not?
Well, I'm saying in the eyes of the programs that are able to assist you in this calamity that we've had. For me,
you're talking on behalf of Sea Grant, but not FDA like you were talking about before, right? You could still consider that aquaculture.
The definition of aquaculture is normally when you raise something in an amended environment that achieves your goal, in which case soft-shell crabs would be. You could stretch it to baby shrimp or croakers or whatever, or storm minnows. However, the federal government and even sometimes the state government sees aquaculture through different lenses, and they may not say, the oysters is a good example. So are we amending the environment when we put down mulch material, for the little oysters to attach to?
Here's another kind of weird thing with that. So in order for these systems to thrive, you have to have life support, including live bacteria that you culture.
Absolutely.
Would you consider that livestock or a culture in your aquaculture?
In the case, if you're running a biological filter and you depend upon the bacterial load in your biological filter to take care of the metabolites from whatever you're holding or growing or whatever, then that group of organisms in there is not only nice, it's critical.
Correct.
to your survival.
I guess my question is, are they considered livestock as well or aquaculture as well as this? Even though it's not the product, it is.
Well, if you don't take care of your bacteria, you just as soon pull the plug on your shop and go home.
Right.
Because you've got nothing.
My question is, can you consider that as a loss of livestock?
I philosophically would absolutely. I would consider that to be.
So bait holders, crab shedders, anyone in aquaculture, we should also be keeping this log in track as
Well, it's difficult.
loss.
It's difficult to quantify the bacterial load in your biological filter, except by the fact that it doesn't filter as good as it should be. And if you lose that bacterial load, that livestock in your biological filter, then it will take you at least 2 weeks to restart. and get back to the original filtering capacity. And in which case you probably wash your fish, wash your shrimp, and a good chance you lost your clients too.
But you think that's something we can apply for as?
I don't know how you would quantify it.
Gotcha.
You can quantify how many head of crocus you have. You know, I bought 1,000 crocus from Joe Blow, put them in my tank. I lost all those 1,000. How are you going to quantify?
You could possibly say operating cost over time, or the ability to operate and the cost of that lack of ability over time.
Well,
It takes
you
you
know-
2 weeks down, that's 2 weeks of you not being able to operate, we can quantify that.
Minimum.
Right,
Minimum.
right, cold water, months.
Could you quantify that as a ammonia processing ability? Like, if you do that or not, you can trace the numbers of the amount of ammonia processed prior to and following, and therefore have a rough estimate of the total population bacterial loss.
I would go with that, but whether or not
to a percentage.
the funding agency would go with that, I can't tell you that. But, you know, the point of it is that, you know, like I said before, these calamities point out the weaknesses in our systems. And from that sometimes painful epiphany, we're able to build better systems. The role of redundancy in bait systems is critical. Not just redundancy, but hyper redundancy. So I'm not going to belabor the point. At any rate, the fishery aspect of Louisiana, of the impact zone, is our forte. And so get in touch with me or any of the agents that can give you a hand.
Could I possibly get Ms. Dominique's contact information?
The what?
Ms. Dominique's contact information?
Yeah, just scroll down. Dominique would be right. Right there. Yeah, Dominique.
Can you scroll up like that hair?
Yeah.
So we're kind of territorial. There's about 240 of us, 250 of us nationwide, and we all have little territories. And we're very compatible with each other, but we focus on certain territories, our area of responsibility. Just the way the hard people do.
All right, Rusty, I promise I'm not trying to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
But if we were able to cite a wildlife and fisheries definition of aquaculture.
That's wildlife and fishing.
Okay, so how is it going to be different, and why would their definition not be applied to NOAA or Louisiana Sea Coast?
Because it's state and federal.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's just, it's, for instance, whenever something new comes up, like in the 50s, it was catfish farming. You know, that was relatively new. And bankers had a hard time. The federal agencies had a hard time. USDA had a hard time. You know, how do you possibly quantify livestock when you can't even see them? Oh, these are my fish out there. Where? I don't see them. You know, it's not cattle. You can't go count. This is Betsy and so and so. So the definition of these new and somewhat obscure industries is slow to mature to the point to where it has the same substance as something like beef cattle.
Is there an avenue that you recommend for us if we want to help update that map to the territory? Because the map doesn't match the territory is what we're getting at.
You mean the discrepancy?
Yes.
Well, we're
Like it makes it not functional.
Sea Grant as part of NOAA, as part of DOC, is constantly trying to do that. In a matter of minutes, I'm going to go on a Zoom with the National Office of Aquaculture, with the national representative from NOAA on aquaculture. And
I would love to give you some data before you go into that.
we go through that
Yeah.
all the time. And how do we correct the short-sightedness of sometimes the federal regulatory agencies, the federal health agencies?
Went to about 20 bait shops in the last 2 days, and I've got statuses on every one of them. I feel like this is.
No, I can
we need to
spell
talk.
that. I can spell that.
Yeah.
Or just recirculating aquaculture or indoor ag or anything, just on land that's not an earthen pond. Is any of that, are those defined?
It's all to me, it's all variations on a theme.
Right.
If that organism in that filter, in that tank, or whatever, is that your organism? Are those crabs in a soft crab system, are those your crabs?
Damn right, until they get sold.
That's right. Are those bacteria your bacteria? Yeah. I own them.
But the same thing with shrimp.
Absolutely. Or catfish.
Treatment required.
Yeah.
No, I got it.
Thank you, Rusty. Sorry for the spot.
Any other questions for Rusty? It is noon, so we are going to wrap up, and we will be here for the meeting if you guys have additional questions or need info, but I'm going to email all these contacts out this evening, along with the recording and all the handouts, so it'll all be in one place for you all. Sound good?
Thanks,
Because you won't be able to get it. Randy,
Yeah, I need that.
yeah, no big deal. Hey, it's been a while, right? I will. This year's is been so high.
Call me, let me know.
But
Whatever.
no, I'm treating it.
I don't even know where to start.
That's just pure going.
John Lisbon is sitting on his right now. Beginning of September, so, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, no problem.
Three of them stayed on the little island that we really, like, what I don't know where they anybody found this before.
And you got a couple of guys who said they got the survivor knives.
Oh, I had Americanas, brown bread, I had banners, I had chicken, I
Did you just tell me? I'm Pat Turner. I would like to introduce myself. You're my agent. You're my understanding. Yes, ma'am. Nice meeting you. If I got anything else, I got a Facebook someone now. No, that's Monty Montalano. I'm Hotel Marina. We do all the fishing. Well, come see us sometimes. And that I got a Facebook someone. Have a blessed day.
They all had their characters. And where his house is, that whole field, and there was some houses along this road. So they were trying to find them everywhere in Dallas, so they could come tag them and, check the tag.
Do the,
And then just driving by, I saw like one stuff.
A lot of times,
do these, solar panels, and they're like, because they're trying to a lot of and they're trying to establish it where less use is more often. Then if they try bringing eyes onto the solar panel.
But I was in it.
For sure.
So I'm.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell. Yeah. And even that's everything is. I've been on breakaway side, not out. Because my, the river's my backyard.
Bush Kill.
River's back behind me, and then the marsh, my is over here. That levee. And it's. Oh, yeah.
They're nice looking critters. Spread so.
All right, guys. I wanted to introduce you because I didn't know if they knew you.
No, that's great. That's right.
If you were to say hello. Anyway, I'll see y'all at Jones.
Thanks, Ryan. So did you get something from this? Useful?
Yeah, we found out who applied for the hot job.
Good, good.
And I don't know about agriculture when I would need to do it. It was interesting.
You know, now you don't want to get into it, right?
I recommended that.
He lost a full building.
I know, but at the time.
Oh, not.
Yeah, 3 years ago. No, this was specific to having mortality.
Yeah.
And those mortalities were,
All 15 acres.
evaluation. The compromised income stock. And so you have to get with the harvest. And she didn't want to do it. You know, because it's much more trouble.
What we went through.
You don't have the harvest of mint.
Because they just said, oh, yeah, no, it's just minor, that day, they just said.
You don't have a chain of that event, and you don't have.
The harvester has to feel the pain, the same pain that the
Yes.
retailer feels, and vice versa. So.
This is my backyard.
If you have certain, I mean, the animals are really stressed.
I ate greenhouses,
You've got-
we only got
you've
2.
got stratified water that's almost.
We had-
water.
Probably about it.
It's got almost no oxygen. And he's stressing, just the water.
Just demolished them.
It's not, it's real work, and you gotta have your head screwed on straight if you're gonna make money.
Well, and now also we look at the world, there's technology developed.
Well, the rocks-
And then this, somebody shooting a container in our house, I don't know where the hell it came from.
When you're not a hurricane.
No, it's never gonna be it. I don't know why I trust him. But when he came in, he said, "What's in it?" And then, oh, they want to jump it out. I was like, yeah, get it
I
off.
was working late.
Yeah, but this was like someone house, without Roman waters, it was so bad.
Oxygen goods?
I mean, liquid.
Yeah.